All right, what's up everybody? So in today's video, we're going to be comparing both the hardware and plug-in version of the Avalon 737. And what I want to see is if there is a difference between the two that is substantial enough to where you should go out and spend thousands of dollars and get the hardware. Now, I am a huge mark on the Avalon 737. It is my favorite piece of gear in my setup. I absolutely love this thing. And it's been something that I've wanted since basically when I got into music. So of course, when I had the money, I went out and got the physical hardware version of it. And yeah, I just want to test it to the plugin. The plugin is by Universal Audio, for those of you who don't know. And when I saw that they had the Avalon plugin, at the time I didn't have the hardware one, or the hardware Avalon. Of course, I had to go out and buy the plugin. I was just ecstatic to see that they finally released that. So now that I have both the hardware and plugin in my possession, I really want to just demo them side by side and see if there is a noticeable difference between the two. Now, I understand that, of course, there is going to be a difference between the two because we're talking about something that is physical hardware and a plugin that is emulating it. I think everyone here understands that. But I think the question here is if there is a noticeable difference to where you should go out and spend thousands of dollars and get the hardware, or just get the plugin for, I believe it's like 300 bucks. So we're going to test that out. And then of course I'm going to break down the settings for the Avalon and how I'm using it, and kind of explain how you use it, because I understand a lot of you guys that are just seeing this are also just curious about the Avalon. You probably heard a lot about it, so you may not necessarily know how to fully use the Avalon. So I'm going to also explain in this video on just how you use it, how to get the best results, and how to get a specific sound that you might be going for with the Avalon. So yeah, I think that's about it, guys. So let's go ahead and jump into it. What we're going to start with is the Avalon hardware. That is currently what I am running into right now. And then I will break down my settings as we kind of just demonstrate. I want to kind of ramble on throughout the video so that you guys can just hear the difference between the two. So as I've been speaking this whole time, I have been using the hardware version of the Avalon, and it sounds very, very clean. I get a lot of compliments on my audio. A lot of people ask me, how can I get that sound? And unfortunately, unless you have, I would say at the very least $1,500 bucks, because I see them going for that used. Keep in mind, I did not spend $3,000 on mine. I bought mine for half off. That is how you're going to get the quality. Of course, the microphone, you can swap that out and try something cheaper. The one that I recommend if you want to get a very similar tone to the one that I'm currently using, the TLM 103, is the Perception 100. And if I was to plug the Perception 100 into the Avalon 737, it would sound still absolutely amazing. So yeah, guys, that is how I am currently getting the sound. I'm using the hardware. And to break down some of the settings for you guys, I am running this thing into the Apollo. Let's get that out of the way first. I'm running this into my Apollo as a line signal. And of course, you're not going to use any gain on your audio interface. You're going to keep that at 0 and let your preamp do all the heavy lifting. So with that being said, I have phantom power engaged on the Avalon 737, and then I have high gain. That's another thing. A lot of people ask, what is the high gain function on this thing? Why would you want to use that? To simply put it, you would use high gain if you want to get the most cleanest, unsaturated sound that you can possibly get. Keep in mind that your audio is running through tubes when you are using this. So if you just crank the preamp gain on this unit, you're going to start introducing some saturation from the tubes, and it's going to sound almost, the way I like to explain it is very warm and bassy and kind of gritty almost in a way. If that makes any sense, that's kind of how I explain it. So if you want to get the most cleanest, almost R&B rap style vocals, voiceover is another one, you definitely would want to engage the high gain function. So I always turn on high gain when I'm using this unit. I never drive the preamp gain ever, and I don't ever mess with my output. I leave my output at 0. When you're using this device, you want to make sure that you are not peaking any higher than, so on your meter, a lot of people forget about this, and it's very important. Let's just cover this. On the Avalon, it has a VU meter. Do not just disregard that. You want to follow that thing, as that will help you get the best possible quality that you can. So when you are using your device, you want to make sure that you are not peaking over 0. And if you do, don't go any higher than, I would say, 2 decibels over 0 on the VU meter, because if you do, you're going to start getting some saturation. That is how you start introducing that tube saturation. So I would say that for the cleanest vocals that you can get, just make sure that your needle is hovering around 3 to 0. If it's anywhere between 3 and 0 on that VU meter on your Avalon, you're going to get some very clean results. So anyhow, guys, that is the quality coming from the hardware version. That is the settings that I am using to get the hardware to sound how I have it sounding right now. And this is how I always record my videos every time I sit down and record, and also when I go to film my vocals for my songs. So that is how I get the quality out of this unit. And I'll also mention that I'm going to be doing that in unison on the Apollo Twin. So I'm going to be running this thing the exact same that I would run the hardware. And yeah, let's go ahead and switch over to that, and then we'll see if there is any kind of a difference. And use your ears. You should be able to notice a slight difference, but whether or not it's worth $1,000 to go out and buy the hardware, that is up to you. So let's go ahead and switch over. All right, and then this is what the plugin sounds like. So again, I'm trying to match my settings as best as I can. So I have high gain turned on, and I have my preamp gain right in the middle, and I am getting levels right around on average, it's right around 2 to 1 on the VU meter. It usually doesn't spike any higher than about 1 is what I am picking up, which is exactly what I was getting on the hardware. So I'm also not using any compression or EQ. Like I said, I want to focus more on the tonality. The functions are probably going to work the exact same. The compressor and the EQ, they're probably going to sound pretty similar. I just want to focus more on the tone coming from the preamp, because a lot of you guys are going to not be using compression and EQ going into your DAW. A lot of you guys aren't going to be recording that. You guys are just using the Avalon more so for the preamp because, because it sounds so good. So with that being said, this is the quality that I am getting from the plugin, and I'll just be frank with you guys. This sounds absolutely amazing, and in my opinion, if the Avalon isn't one of those holy grails for you, don't waste your time and go out and buy the Avalon. Don't go out and spend thousands of dollars to get you an Avalon. The Avalon, in my opinion, is the holy grail. That is my favorite piece of gear that I have and that I probably will ever own. It is something that I have wanted since I began. I absolutely love the Avalon. It is, again, my favorite piece of equipment. So once I had the money to go out and buy the actual physical hardware, I pretty much just that was it. Like, that was something that I have wanted from a very long time. If this was something that I didn't care about necessarily, like, the Avalon is a good preamp, but it wasn't something to me that was a holy grail, of course I wouldn't have went out and bought in the actual hardware and spent that amount of money that I did. But because it is, that is why I spent the money. I put all that money up to get the physical hardware. If this is something that you have wanted, if it is a holy grail item to you, then I definitely would say that it is worth it to go out and buy the hardware. Again, you can't emulate the warmth that you're going to get from the tubes that are inside the hardware. It's going to be hard to get that exact sound unless you have the real deal. So I would say if that is something that you have had your eyes on, you've wanted it, again, it's a holy grail item, then yes, I would say that it is worth it to go out and buy the hardware. Other than that, if you just have heard, oh, the Avalon sounds great, okay, cool, I want something that's going to make my vocals sound good, and it's just like another preamp to you, then of course just buy the plugin and run it in unison on your Apollo Twin, and you're gonna get some amazing quality. Anyways, I think that's gonna wrap it up, guys. I have some other videos that I'm going to be doing here in the next couple days where I'm gonna compare the 1176 by Universal Audio to my Clark Technic, and I have the Clark Technic KT2A that I'm going to also compare to the Teletronics LA2A plugin. And yeah, we're going to compare more physical hardware items to their plugins and just see if there's really any kind of difference between them, or really if there's any noticeable difference to where you should go out and spend more money on the product or not. So we're gonna do a couple more tests here in the coming days. So yeah, stay tuned for that, guys. Watch out for when I release those videos. Other than that, I think that about wraps it up. So if you got any comments, go ahead and leave that down below and I will get back to you guys. Subscribe for future content because I'm going to be cooking. And I think that about wraps it up. So I will see you guys all in my next video. So peace out, everybody.